All right, good day everyone. My name is Kevin Maffra, and we are going to have a conversation, and this conversation will take the form of discussing one of the projects that we are undergoing right now, Raising Sons and Building a Nation. And what we're trying to accomplish is to build or understand that identity of the males that we are advocating for. And one of the best persons that we have to start that conversation with is going to introduce himself, tell you a little about him, so that we could move towards, like our project said, building a nation one son at a time. So he's going to help us to understand the identity of males that we consider to be at risk. What is the definition of at risk when we say at risk, and what are the processes or procedures that we can put in place to help strengthen our nation by strengthening our males, and to provide and to produce a safer environment for us in St. Lucia. So good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm fine.
All right, okay. So tell me, let's just jump straight into it. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how we can accomplish this aim.
Well, I am Dr. Leonard Johnny. I was born in Sozel, Morbouge, to be direct. Born of a liberal family. My mom and dad were laborers. I came from a family of, in fact, 11. I'm the first from the 11 kids that they actually gave birth to. After me, I had 6 sisters. So I was actually brought up in a home with females, more or less. So that actually caused me to be a very caring young guy. I mean, I had to be taking care of my sisters. Growing up as a young man going to school, when I went to secondary school, I saw, I think I came from humble beginnings. So I definitely realized that I had to help my father. So I started gardening very early, at the age of 14, 14. Sometimes after school, secondary school, I would go to the garden. I helped them to plant crops like potatoes, dasheen, and so on. And some of these very crops were sold actually to keep us alive. So I ensured my sisters all was okay. I actually cared for them quite a bit. After secondary school, I went up the month, said that I would continue my studies, but after spending a week up the month, my family could not afford. So I actually had to fall out from school after a week. That was in 1984. I went back home, stayed there for a couple of months, went out everywhere trying to get a job. It took me a few months, eventually I got a teaching job. Why I stayed there, taught for about 4 years. And again, that care that I had from the very beginning, it actually transformed me into teaching. I taught at the boys' primary and then also Riverdale Combined. After teaching for 4 years, some of my very good friends had gone into policing. And when I heard the things that they were talking about policing, I said that interests me. That level of care that I had, I felt that if I become a police officer, it would give me an opportunity to even care even more for St. Lucians. So eventually, after spending 4 years as a teacher, at the primary school level, I actually left and joined the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, where I actually continued my journey caring for people. Again, as a cop, you know, you had to do everything. You're a social worker, you're a teacher, and so on and so on. So I stayed there in the police service where I spent 22 years. During that time, I decided to continue my studies, so I left. During that time, I went to University of Western St. Augustine to pursue a bachelor's degree in management and government, which was a double major. After doing this, I returned, and then I left again to do a master's in criminology, and the reason why I went into criminology because I saw what was happening in St. Lucia. The level of crime was actually rising. That was in during the time. We saw the murders figures were rising and so on. So I felt that definitely we need that type of skill. We need people with such expertise in the police service. At the time, there was no one with this type of expertise. So I left. I went and do a master's in criminology and returned to the police service. Where I continued my job as a police officer. I ended up working with the commissioner in the commissioner's office. Eventually, I was offered a scholarship to do my PhD because of I came first in the master's program at St. Augustine, and I was given a scholarship to pursue my PhD, which I was very happy. I definitely felt that it would have even given me more expertise in terms of helping out my country. So I felt that there was an opportunity to actually study the young people, because whilst a cop, I realized what was happening in our island. I saw young children coming to school with a bag of marijuana. I actually remember a girl coming to a secondary school, a particular secondary school, with a bag of marijuana. And she was arrested, sent to the station where I was in charge. There was a young boy who went to school with a firearm, actually, went to the toilet. He used the firearm, a bullet actually went and destroyed, caused damage to a number of the doors from the toilet. Luckily, none of the boys actually got injured. And I saw a number of things happen. So I definitely felt that there was a need to actually study why students were actually behaving the way that they behave. And if we were supposed to get a solution, we had to study it. And I realized that there was nobody had actually taken a serious incentive to actually study what was actually going on. And not only the young persons, but we saw at the time there was a rise in terms of violence and even murders. So I decided definitely that would be a good opportunity where I could actually study the young people. What is causing them to behave, to display this type of behavior? So I actually took the offer, went back to University of St. Augustine, and decided to study the causes of delinquency in St. Lucia. What causes the children to behave delinquent? So as a result, I studied secondary school students. So I looked at what caused them to behave delinquently. The result of the study was a bit astonishing. So after completing the study, I returned to St. Lucia. There's a few years that I actually, when I returned, I spent a few years home. Maybe about 4 years after doing the study, I was actually home. I had not been offered a job.
That was by choice, or you did not?
Not by choice.
Oh, you didn't get a job at that?
I was unable to get an employment, so I was.
But based on all what was happening at the time, you'd imagine that you would be.
Yeah, I imagine that I could have done.
Utilized one time.
Yeah, I could have been utilized, but again, I wasn't. But during the time when I actually took the opportunity to write, I did some research on my own. I wrote a number of things. I did some proposals and so on. So I did quite a bit of thing, a number of writing and so on.
Okay, wonderful.
Once I was home.
So let's unpack that. That's interesting. And you were correct before we put on the cameras. You were telling me that it's going to be very surprising to me that your story is an interesting one. So let's unpack your story. I want to go far back as the relationship with your father, and seeing that you wanted to help your father, because we know, and I think your study would justify that majority, one of the key characteristics of at-risk or difficult males or difficult children, to be exact, is the lack of father in the home. So your relationship with your father, you saw that your father had, like you say, 11 children, and you were the eldest one, correct? And you saw the need to assist him. Do you think that is something that you, by your own thinking, could have discovered, or is it in your nature, or is it your environment that propelled you to? Because you could have, as the oldest, you could have left to go and do your own thing and turn your back on everybody else and go down that way, but you decided as a part of individual responsibility to stay back to assist your father and your family. What was that? Where did that decision come from?
I think it was the love that was in that family. I think especially my mom, very loving lady, I must say. I actually saw that. I mean, financially, you would have seen what was happening. And one thing I did not even tell you is that when I was in Standard 4, when I was supposed to write common entrance, I was not sent to write common entrance. Simply because the principal of the school said I was not coming to school enough. I was the brightest in the class. I was the brightest in the class at the time. But I was denied an opportunity to write my common entrance. It was a good thing at that time you had two chances. So the second chance I was given. The first chance, I was the brightest. I was not sent to write. The principal said I was not coming to school enough, and I'm sure you know why.
You reminded me, like you remind me of a student of mine, and if any of our teachers from RC is looking, they know that student very, very well. And I taught him in grade 4, I think 2 years ago, and he doesn't come to school. He is not present at school majority of the school year, and when he comes for his exams, 80 and up. and he just wrote his CPEA, and he did very well. And that's some of the things that we need to pay attention to. Like you said, you were the brightest in the class, and you were not coming to school you were not coming to school all the time. So there's almost like a natural talent in some sense. It's almost like somebody would say God's gift in some sense.
I think it is part of it, but the other part is sometimes it's in your nature. With me, I actually knew what was happening with my family. I knew that they could not afford, and here's the reason why I could not go to school every day. Sometimes my mom and dad could not afford to send me to school. They didn't have the means.
So you wanted to help them from there?
I wanted to help them from there, and I knew that education would be one of the things that would help them. So I really took my school seriously. So in spite of not going to school, I knew what I had to do. And I actually did that.
Okay.
So in spite of not going to school, I knew that I had to do my homework. I had to remember the stuff that I did at school and so on. And I actually took that extremely serious.
So right now, are you still the one caring for your people and your family like you used to do before?
My mom and dad, yeah. They're still alive, and I still care for them. In fact, this morning, my dad is still at the hospital.
Yeah, I remember. That's why we live. Yeah, that's why we live.
For him. Yeah. So I still take care of them. They're still alive. I'm still very close to them. I'm still very close to my siblings. So I'm still that caring person.
But then again, do you think, and my question, that's a genuine question, is it possible for men to still be men and still care in that regard? Because my experience is like, when I was growing up, it's almost like for you to be considered to be a macho man, you have to play like you don't care. Do you think that's...
Yes, I think from studies that have been done, we were brought up that way to be macho. In fact, the way that we were brought up at home, even something happened, you fall. They will tell you, get up, man, and be strong. If you're crying, they will tell you, why are you crying? So the very things that they do, even the opportunities that they give you at home, some of the things that they allow you to do as a boy, they don't allow the girls to do it. So they always feel that, the parents feel that you have to be macho, you have to be that strong person.
And that strong means not caring.
And sometimes that strong leads you to
not care.
Not caring, because they make you feel that you have to be strong, you have to be hard. So sometimes that hardness in you causes you not to care.
So
in fact, research has been done on that. A number of studies have been done on that. One of the reasons why boys behave the way that they behave is because of the way that they were brought up.
Because there's this book that I published, and I'm going to give you a copy. It's called Purpose Driven. The meaning of life is found in the purpose to live. And the fundamental theory in that book is you have to act in a way where you benefit yourself, you benefit your family, you benefit your community, and you benefit your nation. So if you're thinking in that regard, it's similar to the idea in the Bible. Let's say you're passing through to the needle's eye. It's like there's so many things that you have to leave outside of your attention. If you're thinking of yourself, if you're thinking of yourself in relationship to your family in relationship to the community that they're in, and the community in relationship to the country that they're in. So tell me, what is it that you're doing right now? What is your job right now in terms of, we have established that you appreciate your duty of care, you're somebody that's a caring individual, and what are you doing right now? What is the problems that you are wrestling with right now using that caring nature and the abilities that you have acquired throughout the years?
Okay, well, presently I work with the Ministry of Crime Prevention, Disabilities and Mediation. We are now looking at developing a national crime plan to try to help to curb the crime problem in St. Lucia. And apart from that, we're also working alongside with other ministries who have developed programs to actually help at-risk students and so on. So we are actually monitoring these programs, evaluating them and so on. So all this would actually help us to deal with the at-risk boys and also young girls who might later divert into the field of crime. So we are trying to look at the early interventions, trying to tackle it early before they actually get into a life of crime. So that's, as I said, developing the policy is one aspect of it, and we're also working with the ministries that actually have programs, like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Equity, and so on. These ministries actually do have programs that actually help at-risk young persons. So we actually also work in the police service and so on.
And that's one of the things that our project is about, From Ideas for Boys and Men. I think it's a multi-sectoral approach to solve that problem, because we have many stakeholders, as you mentioned, and I'm saying that one of the problems that approaching this would be the definition of what we say at risk is, because we need to be able to identify, we need to be able to have an identity of who we are approaching, because sometimes you might see that Ministry of Education might have a different definition for at risk, and the counselors might have a different definition for at risk, the officers might have a different definition for at risk. But if we standardize the definition for what we understand at risk to be based on proper research and what is practical, what is real, instead of labeling any challenging individual with labeling them with the label of at risk. So what do you think, based on your expertise and based on what you have already accomplished, what do you think the best identity of an at-risk child, or male or boy, would be? Does it start from the home? Does it start from the community? Is it a feeling? Is it a type of behavior? How do we wrestle with that?
In fact, a number of things actually contribute to young persons being at risk. As you rightly said, there's no perfect definition for at risk, because different fields look at risk differently. Criminology, sociologists, teachers, and so on. So the different fields look at risk differently. But I think one of the things that we have to look at is that when you talk about at-risk young persons, we are looking at young persons who are actually displaying some qualities that might actually cause them, if not corrected, to become violent or to behave delinquently. So there are a number of things that will actually cause a young person to be at risk. It can be, one of the factors can be that they might be involved in delinquent peers. They might be associated with children who are already involved in criminal activities. And if they actually associate with these people, it's very likely that they will in turn become delinquent too, because those children are going to influence them. So if a child is actually involved in people who are actually delinquent, these students is at risk.
There's a possibility because it's easier for you to influence the good versus...
And what we've seen is that studies have actually indicated that when young children associate themselves with those who are delinquent, there's a high possibility that they will be delinquent. Also, if you look at those who are using drugs and alcohol, they are also at risk of being delinquent. Again, studies have actually shown that. Even my study, which I did, indicated that.
So when they use drugs and alcohol, there's a higher possibility for them to go into criminality. What's the drug and alcohol use? What's the pipeline between drug and alcohol use towards criminality?
In fact, when I did my study, I looked at mediation. I mediated variables. What I did was that I looked at what would happen to students who were brought up with delinquent parents, or homes where the family were, or let's say dysfunctional homes.
Dysfunctional homes.
Those who actually brought up in this environment, it was very likely that they would have used drugs. And because of the using drugs, what it showed that it is likely that they would be associate themselves with delinquent peers. And again, you know what would have happened. Apart from associating themselves with delinquent peers, they were very likely to get hyper. If you're hyper, then there's a great risk of you.
So one is the dysfunctional home. What would you categorize a dysfunctional home to be? A home without proper structure, a home without parents, dysfunctional parents, at-risk parents.
In our own environment, what you can even say a home with one parent can be a dysfunctional home, because studies have indicated that for children to be properly brought up, they must have the father
and the mother.
And living with one parent can be termed as
dysfunctional. And one of the things I want to ask you, sorry about that, one of the things I want to ask on that point is, when we launched our project, we made a short clip and we placed it on our Instagram page and on our Facebook page. And what we saw is that, number one, it got many views and we got a lot of comments.
Yes.
And one of the comments were, I have hope for a project like that because I'm a single parent. And we had persons messaging us, they really would like our intervention because they have a son and they live alone with the son, and that's something that they've been thinking about all the time, that they need a program to assist in the fathering of the son. And when I analyze that, it appears to me that they fully understand, and we know we live in a society where majority of the single parent homes are only a majority of them are the mother is present, and we have to appreciate and to give the responsibility to the parents that's taking the responsibility. The mothers take responsibility. We have to say bravo to that. The majority of them take responsibility. We have to say that. But at some point, it's not strong enough to pull the boy away from going down the path of at risk and moving into criminality. And I think instinctually they understand that. They know that they need that second hand. So what do you think that the father is bringing into the home that assists in the development of the child? What do you think that his role is that is missing currently in the home? And I believe his role is missing in the society as well.
Yes, well, one of the roles of the father is to be a leader. Leadership would be one, mentorship and so on. Also, as a father of the house, you have to provide protection. You're one that the son will definitely look up to. So there was a number of roles that the father actually provide to the family. There are a number of roles that the father actually does in the home. You are the breadwinner. The son definitely will look up to you as a father as to how you behave, your behavior. So leadership there would be guidance. If the son is doing something wrong, you definitely will guide him out. All right, the way that you're doing or whatever you're doing is not the proper thing. Definitely consider all these things. So a number of things that should be provided by the father. Then the mother is the one coming out with that love. The loving and caring definitely would be that part of the mother. So whilst the mother will be nurturing the boy, giving that love, and that is what he'll actually portray when he actually live. Continue to love his own family and even others. And definitely he would be a leader based on what you've seen in the home done by the father and so on. So the father to have that man who's strong, who think properly, who actually take things seriously in life, portray that love and care and so on. He needs the father. So sometimes when they don't have the father, that actually hit them, and that hate is actually displayed in terms of violence and so on. Because some of the things that I actually read were young boys who did not have a father. Some of the things that they said and some of the things that they do actually see that they brought up with that type of anger in them. Because some of them don't even know who the father was, and they were actually brought up with the mother, and that caused them to be delinquent. In fact, even my study indicated that that is one of the cause of delinquency. So raising in a single family it is one of the risk factors that actually cause young persons to be delinquent. So the father is is a crucial part of the family. So when someone is actually brought up in a single parent home, there's a great possibility of that person being delinquent. So that is one of the factors. So parenting actually came up as being a very strong factor that actually caused young persons, especially in St. Lucia, to be delinquent. You have some of the homes, the single homes, the mother actually live the children go to work because they are the breadwinner. Sometimes when they come back very late. So you find that they never have a time to actually sit and talk to the children. So they're basically on their own. They don't have a father. So you find that the single parent is definitely one of the risk factors.
Yeah, and your point there is a good one, because recently we had a camp at Viewfort, the Our Boys Matter program. I was invited to be part of that camp, and one of the things that we did down there was we had a devotion, and at the devotion we had about 11 boys, 20 something boys, and at the devotion we had an activity. One of the individuals from our organization, Ideas for Boys and Men, Mr. Chidi Gonzalez, and I think that was a very good activity. Initially, when he brought the activity up, I was like, that activity would not. But I went ahead and said, okay, let's try it. Let's try it out. And the activity was a shit after we got up 4 in the morning. We tried to implement some structure, and that's what the father does in the home, put proper structure in the home, because you can have a physical home, and the physical home doesn't have a structure, an operating system. The father is the one that takes care of the operating system. What time to get up, what time to go and sleep, what time to do that. It's almost like God the Father tell you, okay, here's what the world is, but here's what you should do. The instructions of the father is the culture of the father, and we try to impose that early when we got there.
And not only put in the structure, but ensure that
the purpose of structure is for reinforcement.
Exactly.
The purpose for structure is for reinforcement. So we got up 4 o'clock in the morning because the night before they were motion and stuff. So we say, okay, we're going to get up 4 o'clock in the morning. We got up 4 o'clock in the morning. We did some jogging, and we had devotions. We taught them. We prayed with them, and the activity was write something that hurts you the most on a piece of paper, and we brought in something like a coal pot, a coal pit, and we're going to burn it together. And to tell you the truth, I have never, when I met the young man, I was like, boy, these fellas looked scary. But when the activity was going on, I saw fellas break down and cry. Like fellas break down and cry. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was happening. These fellas went deep into some and some of the things that we got to know that they wrote on there, that falls in line with exactly what you are explaining. Because I actually had to go to one of them and to tell him, well, look what I wrote as well. And when I showed him what I wrote, he actually cried a lot more, because we wrote the same thing. That was an interesting thing to note, and we saw that. I was saying, like, they do have some things that they hid in the fog. They hid some things in the fog that they do not want to pay attention to, and those things kind of trouble them in the back of their mind. Those things kind of trouble them. So when you see the alcohol addiction, when you see the drug addiction, when you see all of those things, it's trying to put a mask to hide something that is in the fog, that is troubling them. And that's when you call the role of a father. When the role of the father, I have my 2 sons, and one of the things that I try to do early is impose that structure. And I'm learning that the way a father care is different than the way a mother care. And we know a lot about the maternal instinct. And we know a lot about the things that happen with the mother, the maternal instinct. But I find myself not liking certain things that my sons do, because I have that paternal instinct. And my paternal instinct was developed, as I read, my paternal instinct was developed because I went through the entire process with my wife. I got the chance to see every stage my wife went into. From the time of when my wife knew she was pregnant, I was participating in so I got a chance to develop what you call, research show that the dad brain.
Exactly.
You must read. So you did something on that, the dad brain. Yeah, you had a chance to develop the dad brain. So I know that I care. I don't care for my boys in a way where you are good the way you are. My caring for them is, you have to become the best person that you can be. That's how your mother will tell you, yeah, you're okay, that's fine. My caring is like, no, that's not fine. You can do better than that. And push you, but lovingly let you know at that age of development, you should be able to be put in your pants. It's not that I have to put your pants for you. Like, my caring is be able to train you to live in the world without me, no matter how much I love you.
That is what is missing when there is only the female.
Yeah.
So when they get on their own, they cannot stand on their own feet. So exactly what you're saying. We, as men, most of us try to ensure that our kids are better than us.
Yeah, I was just telling him that a while ago.
They become a better person than what we are.
Yep.
So we actually strive for that, and as you say, most of the things that we do is to ensure that. They might not see it, but again, when they grow up, they're going to see it. In fact, my own kids have told me that. Because when they grow up, they realize what you're doing. At the time, they felt that you're actually trying to push them to the edge and so on. But they see that you're trying to put out the best out of them, and they see it later. So that is the character of us men. So you are very vigilant, and you're always there as a leader to should see that our children do what they're supposed to do. As you said, you set our rules and so on in the house, and we ensure they do it. If they don't get up on time, we'll go there and get them up on time. So if they're late for school, we try our best to ensure they get to school early and so on. So we try to develop that type of habit in them. So
discipline.
The discipline, of course. So later in life, they will see the importance. And that causes them to be that caring person at the end. Because definitely, they will continue to portray that not only at home, but when they grow up older. So when they become leaders, they become supervisors and so on, they can actually help to develop a better worker in somebody else. They help to develop a better company. They help to develop a better community, a better country.
So on that, we're moving away from the family. We want to go into the community. How can we, on the journey that we're embarking on, strengthen? Because the family, a community is made up of many families.
Yes.
So we see the problem there in the family. Now, there's not much that, because the majority of the problems that stem in the family is that we lost some of the values that we held. That's another conversation. That's for another story. The values that we lost. But right now in the community, as a teacher, as somebody who works in criminology, how do we look at our community and exercise that duty of care in a way that we get the best out of them right now, knowing where we are? And that's a genuine question.
Yes. If we take it back to during my days when I was brought up, you were actually brought up by a community, in the sense that if you do something wrong, everybody in the community would actually be looking up, and they would actually pull you up. You would have passed somebody in the morning and you don't say morning, they would pull you up and ensure that you say it. And they might even beat you. And if you had gone to tell your mommy that, you'd get more. So in the early days, in the 60s, 70s, and even before, we had a community growing up. A community would actually take care of a child. So you were not only being taken care of by your mom and dad in the home, not only in the home, but again, by the community rather. But again, that has actually left, as you said, because of our values and so on. Now, if you actually beat somebody or even talk too hard to somebody's child, you might end up getting some licks. The person might come to your home and so on, or even the teacher, they might go to the school. So that business of the community raising a child has actually left us, sadly. So it is much more difficult now to say that you can actually help in raising somebody's child. I think some of that needs to return. But again, to do that, we have to educate the community, let them know what they've actually caused by actually preventing other persons from taking part in raising the kids. I think we have actually lost that, and that has actually created quite a bit of problem for us, because you've seen somebody's child doing something bad in the community, but you can hardly go to them and correct them. Because if you do that, you might be putting yourself in problems. So I think what we need now, we need to bring that back. But one of the first things that we must do is to educate the community, let them know the values and the importance of that. That a child should not be raised by only the family, but rather by the community.
By the community. And that is exactly what our project is about, raising sons, building a nation. And one of our objective is to identify what we call at risk, but I don't want to call it at risk. We have to change the terminology. You would understand why. but also the caregivers around them, parents or whoever they live with, and the coaches, because we zone out district 3. So we're going to work in the schools and the students from the age 12 to 16. And when we identify these 20 students, we would be able to identify the caregivers, and some of the caregivers are the teachers. We like the teachers, or so one teacher per school, to be part of that ecosystem of care. That's what we call it. We don't even call it community, we call it ecosystem of care. But it's the same idea. It's the same idea. You know, we say you have to give them the proper terminologies. If you give them the, ecosystem of care. So when we want to develop, one of the most important parts of the project is to develop a psychosocial program. And I'm not using the word, everybody use the word psychosocial all the time. Psychosocial. Psychosocial basically how can we train the student or boy to think in terms of society. Psycho, the mind, social, society. So we're putting that program together, and the program will be either when we train the community around them, the ecosystem of care, they will be able to part the training on the students so that it is standardized across. And we would like to be there. That's why we need the definition. We need to work with a standardized definition of at risk, so that when we take the baseline assessment, we baseline, okay, this boy was being suspended 5 to 6 times a year. Right now, with the psychosocial training, the parents implementing it, and we want to have a group of out of the 20 or 30 parents, we'd have to have a group of them to be able to look over everything and to see how this thing will be implemented, and then we need to, at the end of that, we want to assess the student to find out if there was an assessed parent, to find out what it is, or the caregiver to find out what it is that could be done better, and was the psychosocial training successful. So like you were saying, obviously is the community that's needed. The community aspect was lost, but what we're trying to do, and it's a try, which what we're aiming at is trying to bring that community, zone in an area and bring that community of care around those individuals to find out what could make it work for them. And after we are done with that, we want to take that same model, apply it in District 3, apply it in District 4, apply it in District 5. But that way we'll be able to start the conversation on go back to the fact that the community, and some of the ills of the community before, we want to leave it out in terms of the harsh punishment and all of these things, because sometimes you can discipline somebody lovingly, another time you can discipline somebody out of your fair frustration. So how do we measure that? And I think that's something that should be measured. But at the same time, you see the positive aspect of the community. I would like us to re-engage that, and that's one of the solutions, the proactive solutions to the problem that we're facing in our country.
The positive of the society and reinforce it on the young persons. Yes, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. So as you can see, when you talk about that risk, it's not something that's it's something that's very broad. It's not something that have, as you said, the definition. It is looked at differently. There are a number of things that cause young persons to be at risk. It's multifaceted. So it depends on what we're looking at and what caused that particular child to be at risk. So there are a number of factors that can cause them to be at risk. So again, we have to conduct a study to find out actually what caused that particular child to be at risk. And then you can build, as you said, the program for them that can actually help them to take that at-risk factor, prevent them from actually continuing into that cycle, so that they can actually find themselves on the other side, where they become delinquent and even going to committing even further crimes.
So let's talk about values. Our final topic, values. What are the values you think that we have lost? We talk about community, one of them, but I want to talk about individual values, the way that we used to behave before as individuals. And your values come from, you know somebody's values based on what they sacrifice for. What I mean by that, if you value family, you would sacrifice something. You would sacrifice being out in the street 24/7 to be with your family. If you value good health, you will be able to sacrifice not eating the sweets and the sugars, and you'll eat healthy, and you'll go and you'll work out. If you value relationships, you are going to value trust and trust in people. If you value trust, you'll be able to sacrifice not telling lies. So what are the things that we should be sacrificing for? What are the values that we have lost in terms of our community, in terms of our relationship? Is a conversation about God even something that we should bring up when we're talking about development?
Yeah, well, a number of them, if you look at the values, in terms of values, we've actually can see quite a number of values have actually been lost. Even as you said, even going to church, you can see that quite a number of people actually broken away from churches. Not many people actually attend church as before, and that would be one of the going to church would actually help persons to actually value others. Looking at a higher being, who they would see, would tell them that they should love others, they should care for others, and so on and so forth. So a church goer, it would be much easier for them. There's a possibility of it being much easier for a person who goes to church to actually show love into other persons, caring for other persons, and so on. Because definitely the doctrine in church teach them that they should love others, they could care for others, and so on. They cannot harm others, and so on. But what you're seeing now is that that is actually dying, that value. Even self-care. Love oneself, we can actually see that it's actually dying because of the things that people do. Look at how they drive on the road. When you look at the young drivers, you're wondering, do that guy really care of himself? Does he want to live an extra year and so on? They will overtake you in the corner and the type of things that they do. I mean, mostly every day on the road, I see, and I sometimes have to stop and allow them to drive. So you've seen that they don't even value themselves the way that they should. So you've seen that that self-value is actually dying. Respect to others, respect is another one. Do they respect themselves? The things that they say, the young person pass on the road, they will not even tell you morning, they pretend they don't even see you and so on. And I actually look at all these things. I'm a very good observer, I'm very observant. So there are a number of things that they do that we see that these values are not there anymore. Even as you spoke of health, a man drinking every day, smoking heavy every day, and you say that he loves himself. And sadly, they've seen what is happening to others. Even the own members of the family have actually suffered because of that, but they still do it. So you ask them, do they value themselves? I just some time ago had to talk to a young guy. His dad is ill, and a particular thing caused the dad to be ill, and he's doing it. So I'm saying, but you know what caused your dad to be in the state that he is? Yes, so and so. But what are you doing? Are you not doing the same thing? Don't you think that if you continue, you'll end up just like your dad, and so on? You know. So you're wondering whether they actually care about
themselves, whether they even value life. And that's the thing, people now in our society call it, it's pro-choice, value your choice to do what you want, and not the pro-life, not valuing life. And when you value life, there's a lot of things that you have to sacrifice. You're not only sacrificing for your life. When you value life, you value your life. If you value just life, if we're starting just at life, if you value your life, you're going to value somebody else's life. That's why one of the greatest commandments that amalgamated all together: love God just as you love your neighbors. You have to love. You have to look at. You have to look at yourself and look at
yourself as you
love yourself. You love yourself. Yeah. You have to do that. You have to look. There's part of something that's inside of the order that's inside of you, and that is life. And if you respect that fundamental thing, and we think of that fundamental thing, we'll be able to have better conversations politically. We will be able to work together on a community level, and we'll be able to build our nation that we would want to, because all of this is in relationship to our nation. It's not in relationship, because I have my 2 boys growing up in St. Lucia, and they're living in a community, and the community is in St. Lucia.
Yes.
Would I not? I love my family. I love my children. Automatically, the minute I start to think of my boys and my family, automatically I start thinking of my community. And when I start thinking about the community they're going to grow up in, obviously the community is in the country.
Exactly.
I then start thinking of the country. So when you see that there's part of me that's in you and that's in everybody else, which we use the word life to describe it. When you just love that and you're more pro-life, other than, because the pro-choice philosophy is you could do what you want. It's kind of narcissistic, right? Yeah. You can do what you want, what you feel. If you feel that works for you, that works for you. Yeah. But who are you in a relationship to your community? Who are you in relationship to your family? And those are some of the conversations we should be having. And we have some of the most influential people saying that do what you want, do as thou wilt, and that was never how our society was before.
And you hit the nail on his head. I remember when I was going to my PhD, my students asked me, but Dad, why are you going to study? So I told them, I'm going to study crime. In fact, I want you all to grow up in a crimeless society. I don't want you to grow up in a society that's full of crime, because definitely it'll affect you. Yeah. I remember telling them that a couple of years ago. So it's a good thing I actually spoke of that. It came back to my mind. So I told them that I want them to grow up in a society that has much less crime than it is now.
Yeah.
So as you said, if you love your family, you definitely will want your country to be a one that is not as violent as it is now, because it will affect your family.
Yeah.
And apart from affecting you, your family, it affects others. So if you love others, you'll think of yourself, your family, and the country at large.
Very much so. So I think we will stop here. I have an engagement at 11:40, like 11:41. So thank you very much. I don't know if you want to say something to the parents, the fathers, just to give them a final thought on what you would love to see our country to be, and what your participation is in it.
Well, definitely, I would want to see we grow up in a country that is less violent than it is presently. And the parents can do much more. If they actually ensure that they take care of the children, they raise them properly, they talk to them very often, especially those going to school. You talk to them, find out what they do at school, look at the school bag, what they have in their bag before they go to school, who they associate with, and so on. You must be very close to your children. You must know a lot about them. Who are their friends? What are the activities they get involved in? When they're not home, who they are with, and so on. And you always tell them the bad things that they do when it's bad. Let them know that what they're doing affects them, and not only them, but others. And you always try to lead them the right way. And if they have done something bad, let them know that they've done something bad. Too often that we are, as parents, sometimes we condone it, we hide it. We don't even tell them that. So let them know the bad things, and let them know the effects of it. We don't only let them know that it's bad, but tell them the effects. It will affect you at the long run. It affects your brothers. It affects the entire family. It affects the country. That I think definitely going to help to make our country a better place to live. So it's a continuous work in progress, where we have to continue helping, continue trying. And again, as I said, it starts from the parent. The school, the place where we work, and so on. So it actually not only in the home, but the community at large. So you in the community seeing somebody behaving a way that they should not, you go to them, you talk to them. So if each of us do our bit, definitely we'll see in time to come that we'll have a less violent country and a better place to live. So it's the country coming together holistically, trying to help in terms of reducing the amount of violence that we have. And we can do that by actually helping our children to grow up better than the way that they are now. We want to grow up a child which is well behaved, a child who know the limits, that if they do that particular thing, they actually cause, it actually hit others, and not only others, but again, sometimes but even the family, because in the long run, when you commit a crime, it's not only the victim that is being affected, but you have to realize that the family of the offender is also affected, and even the offender sometimes is being affected too. So doing something bad to the community doesn't only affect the victim, but it affects the entire society. And if you look at that angle, definitely it would actually motivate you to ensure that you help to build a better society, because all of us suffer when something bad happens in the society, whether directly
or indirectly. All of us suffer. So, well, that's it for us. Thank you, sir. I really enjoyed the conversation, honestly. All right. So, all right.